living in these apartment buildings or living in Ananda Village, being part of a sangha, being part of spiritual fellowship. And finally, the challenge of living in an unstable, unpredictable world. Okay, let's start with the first one. And that's when we're going through difficult times. So often, the tendency that people have as devotees is they think, I'm a devotee, I should be above this, therefore I am above this. This is not really bothering me. But on an internal level, it's deeply bothering you and you're just in denial. So how to face what hurts and go through it. And some of you have experienced this. You shared it with me and you figured out how to get through it. But it will never stop. You think now all the plates are spinning in the air, but there will always be something. That's the nature of life. God, and it's from God. If we realize every test that comes in our life is God saying, find me here. Find me in the pain of lost love, of a broken marriage. Find me in the pain of a dysfunctional partner or family member. Find me in the pain of a handicapped child that's in my life. Find me there. And because God has given you those things. You know, I came upon a variation of a technique of masters for self-healing. And it's very applicable to this. Let's say you're walking and you twist your ankle or we'll use that as an example. And we have the energization exercise. A friend of mine, just sprained her wrist. This is a true story. And so I was trying to do the energization exercises and send energy, which of course I'm not suggesting you don't, but she said it was too painful. I couldn't do it. And I said, I've had that experience too with a twisted ankle. And what I find is if I can deeply, deeply relax and be aware of that damaged, injured body part, and then find the point of, get deeper and deeper, and then find the point of damage or injury. Make it very specific. Get deeper and deeper until you feel where the ligament is torn or where the pain in your heart is, where the loss is, whatever it might be. And then instead of tensing, relax. Relax deeper and deeper into that point and send warmth and energy there until it begins to dissolve. The point of injury begins to dissolve. And this applies to our emotional pains. Don't deny them. Don't make yourself numb. So that's another survival technique. We become numb because the pain is too much. Don't go numb, because that will do. A friend of mine who lives in India, actually, she was praying to God for this new job because she really needed it, single mother to raise her, and praying, and it didn't come through. And she said, I'm so angry at God. I just stopped praying to God. And I said, that's not going to help. There was a reason for that. So go deeper. Allow yourself not to dwell in the negative emotions, not just to, it's hurt so much and it's so terrible, but to relax into it, feel the point deep within yourself of where the pain is, and then begin to infuse it with light. I was just talking with a friend who went through a loss of very recently, went through the loss of a family member, a very beloved family member. And she was able to go into the light with that and to feel the union, even though the person isn't in the body anymore, that she's still connected. And it's the same with we have tools as devotees. As Jyotish was saying, the foundation. But then we need to apply them creatively to the personal challenges of our own life. Because God gives every one of us different tests, and nobody has it easier. Believe me, sometimes you think, nothing bad ever happens to that person. If you only knew. But they're able to deal with it because they're applying. It's the application. We have a friend of ours who's a devotee, is into computers. He said, the path is like our computer hardware. Our own personal life is the software, but the application is what we do with it, how it's useful. And so look at the areas of your life that are painful and work through them. Use the tools. Don't be in denial. Don't be numb. Don't dwell in the negativity of them, but learn to release them and to feel God's presence, feel the warmth. It's a physical sensation, truly, the warmth of God's presence in the midst of the tests and trials. And that will help you. So then when the next trial comes, you don't get all tense. You say, I know how to do this, and I know the blessings that are at the other end of it. And it goes on. And remember the story of Master's life. In Master's life, where there was a woman, he was cooking in the kitchen, and there was a woman devotee there, and so she started cleaning up after him, cleaning the pots and pans, and always teaching, always a channel for God's wisdom, he was. And so Master noticed that she was doing this, and so he started dirtying more pots and more bowls and more pans, and she said, I never saw such messy cooking in my life. And then finally she realized she was just caught up in the busyness of it, and she started laughing, and then he went back to a more normal way of cooking. But he was trying to say, there's always going to be a mess, so don't try to get in there, and just relax with it. Relax and say, I know how to get through this. I've done it before, and I know that it works. And once you find the joy and the peace in the midst of what to the rest of the world would look like tragedy and loss, that's one of the great, great blessings of being on the spiritual path. Because we have the tools. We just have to learn how to use them in daily life, in the midst of when it's so very, very hard. And not to pull back. I was remembering a story recently, something that happened with Swami. This was some years ago. We were visiting him in Assisi, where he was living at the time. And we had been invited, that your leaders here, Dharmadas and Nirmala, go to Russia often. Well, we were just starting to work there. I believe this was 1998. And we had been the centers were just starting there, the little meditation groups. We were invited to go to Moscow by a small group there to give some classes. And just before we were going to go, the Russian economy started getting really unstable, and the ruble crashed. And we were watching CNN news with Swamiji in Assisi, and it showed the lines at the bank and, the runs on the bank and, just all this upheaval. And we were going to leave in a couple of days. And so Swami started saying, are you sure you want to go? And I was very fearful about going. I was very nervous and fearful. So Swami said, are you sure you want to go? Look what's happening there. It's so unstable. And I don't, and he kept doing this and kept saying, gosh, I don't know. And I said, no, Swami, I don't want to go. And he said, gosh, I understand. And then finally it kept getting worse and worse. It was the day we were going to leave the next day. And he said, are you sure you want to go? It could be terrible there. And I just looked at him. I said, Swami, I don't think we have a choice. We gave our word. He totally shifted in his spine. He said, of course you have to go. Those people are expecting you to come. But it was just like he was playing. He was just a mirror, just saying, your fears, your worries, your concerns, let's put them out there on the big screen. And then when finally he could feel that I understood the Dharma of it, he said, of course you have to go. And there's no question about it. And so it was so interesting that he gave me that period to go through all of that. By the way, I'm going to say we're going to not have lunch at noon. We'll go on later because we started later. So you don't have to rush and get ready, who's ever in charge of that. So just to not run away from it. And Swami, what was he doing? He could have started out at the beginning and said, you shouldn't have worries, you shouldn't have fears, be a yogi, be in your spine. But he didn't. He let me go through all that. He let me face it. He saw it was in me, But then he saw I'd broken the right way, and then he strengthened that. And that's what the guru does. He get it out, express it, but then find the right, what you know is right. And the beautiful thing is, we always know what's right. We don't always do it, but we know what's right. And if we can keep aligned with that, then the guru amplifies that. That's what that little story was about. He amplified my thought that, yes, I need to go, I gave my word. And the trip was fine. It was wonderful. There was not one moment of problem. So we wasted lots of worries on that. But in any case, dealing with difficult situations, they will come. Face them as devotees. Then living in community, the challenges of devotees. You think, well, how could there be, here we're devotees, how could there be a challenge being part of a spiritual family? But it has its own innate problems, because we can, as someone once said, I'm writing, who lived at Ananda, the friend confided in me, she said, I haven't been meditating very much, but I'm riding on the waves here. You can't ride on the waves. A chain is only as strong as its weakest link. And to build a Sangha, every person has to do their part. And what is your part? Yes, to meditate. That's very important. And I'll do a little pitch here for morning meditation. We're not trying to guilt people, but we're building a community not of mortar and bricks, but of light. And what builds that light? Our consciousness. And what fills our consciousness with light but meditation? So I think each of you who live here should make a commitment to come one morning a week. It's not very much. Come one morning a week to morning meditation. And with the thought, I am doing this not for myself, but I'm doing it to build masters' communities. I remember many years ago, my friend Sadhana Devi, most of you know her, she and I came about the same time. And Swami gave her the name Sadhana Devi because she was a natural meditator. She said, it came easy to me. It never was, I didn't have resistance to it. But she told me something that I've never forgotten. This was many years ago. She said, I realized that I came into this path with the grace of wanting to meditate and not having resistance. And I realized this isn't true for most people. And so when I meditate for everybody in the community. And so when you come to the morning meditation, meditate for those who aren't there. Meditate that they can feel uplifted in their day. Don't just do it for yourself. Do it for all of the Sangha here in this greater Sacramento area. This is building light. And so the challenge, not to be passive and think, oh, well, I live in community, I'm on the path. No, not necessarily. You have to put the energy in. You have to take the individual responsibility. You can't find God as a group. You can only find God as an individual. A group of individuals can strengthen the attunement, but they can't help you break free of ego. That has to be done individually. And so taking individual responsibility. Another challenge of living in community is that we know each other very well. We know the goodness, the high points and the low points. But a friend of mine just was saying to me yesterday, I was talking to her on the phone as we were driving down, and she said, I have a problem with this other person. She lives in a different community, Ananda community. She said, I have a problem with this person, and people kind of know about it. And so when they're with me, they draw that out. Oh, what? So how's it going with so-and-so? And she said, I don't want to talk about it anymore. I want to rise above it. But I get caught because it's my own point of vulnerability. And so the challenge of living in community is when that starts, when that little negative back and forth starts. If you can't not talk, then walk away. It's poison. It's poison to your spiritual life. And I've gone through this myself, people that I've had challenges with, and I've gone through the path of talking about it with friends. It doesn't help. You walk away with the same mental set as when you walked in. Or in your meditation, you can project to the person that you're having a hard time with love and light. You are my friend. I am your friend, whether you are my friend or not. I can't work on that one, but I can work on I am your friend. And I will not let criticism from you come from my mouth, from my heart, from my thoughts. And so to create, I don't know if you all get our weekly blogs. They're called Touch of Light. If you don't get them, just go on ananda.org. You can sign up. But Jyotish just wrote one. We were just in Hawaii, as we mentioned. And we went to this place. We were on the Big Island. A friend of ours has a really nice, lovely guest house there and invited us to stay. But a number of people told us to go to this place on the Big Island called Place of Refuge. And it's a place from the ancient Hawaiian tradition where it was a very structured society. There were rules of behavior for many, many different things. And if you broke one of those rules, seriously, it was punishable by death. But if you could make it, no matter what sin you had committed, if you could make it to this place of refuge, it was a part of the island, and it still is there, there was a priest there, and that priest would absolve you, and then you could go back into society. And Jyotish said, in his blog, which is called the Place of Refuge, I guess, he said, we need to create a place of refuge for everyone in our life. And let everyone feel that here is a place in my heart and my consciousness where you are not judged, where you are safe, where you are accepted for who you are, where every mistake you've made is forgiven and forgotten. And if we can do that for more and more people, what's the end result of that? We are free. There's no longer a place within us of judgment and criticism. Our heart is free of that. And the next step is total self-acceptance. And the next step is total self-forgetfulness. And the next step is total remembrance of God. So we live in community as a gift, but not the kind of gift that we might think. It isn't the gift that everything's perfect and everyone's perfect and everything's just as we want. We were sitting in the airport waiting to board the plane, and there was a family sitting next to us, and the two kids, a girl about 10 or 11, a boy about 8. They were real restless and noisy and jumping up and down and shaking the bench. And I was saying to Jyoti, I was thinking, it was a full flight, and I was thinking, God, I hope they're not sitting behind us on the plane. And so then we sit down, and who should come? And I thought, perfect. I drew that because I was saying, don't let that be. But if we can realize, an airplane is a microcosm for the world. There always will be whatever it is that bugs us. And in community, too. God will put it there. And so if we can, in our hearts, say, this is a place of refuge, and it creates a magic. And finally, the challenge of living in community is comparing yourself to other people. Look how spiritual they are. Look how much they meditate. Look how much they serve. Don't compare. God made you just the way you are, and you have to live the life He gave you. Some years ago, a yogi visited Ananda. In the early years, like the early 5 years, it was very interesting because there was like a wave of yogis that came from India, and their names are not remembered. They didn't have followings or organizations, but they were real yogis. And I remember one man, some of them spoke English, some of them didn't. One man whose name I honestly don't remember. He came, he gave a satsang, he was gone. It was almost like there was a wave of grace from India blessing Ananda with these true yogis. And we were asking him questions. And I was new on the path. I'd only been at Ananda a year or two. And I asked him the question, how do you develop the kind of attitudes that enable you to stay on the path for your whole life? And he just immediately responded, and he said, never compare yourself to other people. And I didn't understand the connection. How, I was thinking the spirit, would be love the guru, meditate 12 hours a day, just all those sort of things. But he took it in a totally different direction. And over time, I think, well, it was particular to me because wherever we have insecurity in ourselves, which I've came in with, have worked on, but wherever we have insecurity, we are always looking, comparing better, worse. I'm here, they're there. I'm here, they're there. Whatever it might be. But what does that do? It keeps our mind always outside of ourselves. We're always looking, where do I fit in the pecking order? Forget it. Just live your life the best you can. Be the best devotee you can. If you meditate, not to contradict what we've said before, but if you meditate sincerely and wholeheartedly for 10 minutes a day and say, God, I love you, this is the best I can do, that's great. That pleases God. God watches the heart. It isn't, okay, I've checked off this, I've checked off this, I've checked off this. From time to time I do that, and then I forget. I make lists. I'm going to do this, so many thises, and so many that's, and then I check them all off. And finally I thought, this isn't helping me. Just be in a flow of devotion and love and do the best you can with your life. Because when life starts intruding, okay, I can't do all my 10 checkoffs because somebody needs to talk with me, then I think, no, that's what happens. I do what's before me. So don't compare yourself to others. We're all on the path together. We're all trying to feel God's presence together. But be the strongest link you can in the chain of spiritual family and community, and realize that you are an important part of Master's work. And this community and all of our communities are an important part of the evolution of human consciousness, the evolution of our planet today. And that takes us to the third thing, the challenge of living in today's world. It's not an easy world to live in. I just saw a headline, and I'm not talking, it doesn't matter what my politics are. It really doesn't. But truth exists. I just saw a headline that today, as I was looking at the news this morning, they've found that since the day after Trump's election, the number of hate crimes just started going up and up and up and up. It's a hard world to live in. And I'm not saying what I believe politically. It doesn't matter. That's a fact. The number of hate crimes in the world today is going up. The tension in the world. We have a friend who's a chiropractor in the Nevada City area. He said he has never seen so much tension, physical tension, in people's bodies that come to him in the whole history of his practice of many decades. Economics, politics, violence, crime, it's divisiveness, people against people. It's heightened. I was born in 1946. I've lived I'm a baby boomer, post-World War II, all up till now. I've never seen this much tension in the world. And so whatever your politics is, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the world we live in now. And how do we as devotees cope with it? Well, it's everything we've been talking about. Create, hearkening back to Jyotish's, what he shared, a foundation of spiritual practices, meditation, energization, kriya, devotion to the Guru, God and Guru. Apply them in your daily life. Live your life with keeping your thoughts and your words and your feelings as much aligned with light and truth as you can. We were in Costco the other day, and we were just going through, how when you leave, they check. I don't even know what they do when they check up that piece of paper, but they do something. They say, oh, you have 2 boxes of Kleenex. Okay. Anyway, so you leave. But the man who was checking us up, I just said thank you. And he looked at me and he said, keep on smiling. And I knew what he was saying. It's like everybody else was tense and grim and trying to get out there. And I just smiled at him because I wanted to. And just keep on, share the light. We have a friend in India who, most of you have read Swami's autobiography, The Path. And there was a woman, Ronnie Bond, who was a very high soul. And she helped Swami with this project he was trying to get started in India, the Delhi project. Ronnie has passed away, but her son, who is elderly still, but we met him the last time we were in India. We always try to connect with him. He's a beautiful soul. He was telling us that Ronnie, his mother, was a great devotee of Babaji. And that we said, do you feel Ronnie's presence, your mother's presence? He said, oh, yes, she's with me all the time. And she's in communion with Babaji. And I asked her to ask Babaji and to give me the answer. There's so much darkness in the world now. Why don't you do something about it, Babaji? And Babaji said to Ronnie, and Ronnie said it to Indu, and Indu said it to us. What the masters say is, I can't stop the darkness. My job is to increase the light, and that's the antidote. And so the antidote for the darkness that we see in the world all around us is not more anger, not more resistance, not more they're bad and we're good. That doesn't help at all. The antidote is to increase the light within ourselves, because where that light is, no darkness can dwell. And Master said in autobiography at the end, he said, I see my Kriya bonds like shining sparks of light circling the globe. And so really I say this to you quite heartfelt, with quite a bit of earnestness and from a deep sincerity. However inadequate you may feel as a devotee, the world needs your light now, desperately. Realize this responsibility, and in your prayers, in your meditation, in your interactions with others, realize that you can make a difference by being a channel of light, by living in the light. And this is the challenge of our times. We can be, some mornings you look at the news and I just am so overwhelmed by what's going to happen. But that doesn't help. What does help is to go to the center of light within yourself and to feel it, to reinforce it in your daily interaction with everyone that you meet, and let your words and your thoughts and your feelings express the light, and not with a sense of, self-importance, but with a sense of devotion to God and Guru. None of us as individuals have any importance, but the divine light within us is of utmost importance. And that's what we have to keep feeding it and nurturing it and developing it, whatever our personal challenges are. And sometimes in the midst of intense personal challenges, that pain pushes us out of desperation and survival to be in that light. Well, let's be that light now. The challenge of our times as devotees is responsibility to be channels for the light in the world right now. So let's take that seriously. We have a wonderful mission that Master brought, all of us together. No one's better than anybody else. No one's more important. Honestly, no one's more spiritual, truly. the same God that dwells in you, dwells in Master and Swami. But we just need to say, I need to be more aware of that now and live it. And when I was coming in, there was one of my friends here, she had on a Nayaswami blue shawl, and she said, I'm just faking it, because she's not a Nayaswami. And I said, well, you know the saying, fake it till you make it. And so it is. Not that we fake it, but if we're not where we want to be spiritually, don't let that stop you from sharing whatever light you have, because the world needs it so much now. And it's our blessing. We really, I believe this more and more. All of us chose to reincarnate this time because we knew it would be difficult, and we knew we brought lifetimes with us, behind us, of spiritual dedication. And we knew that we could help, as part of Master's family, make a difference now. And so let's make that difference. Don't undersell who you are. Swami would always look at us, and that was why we loved him so much. He saw who we really were and who we were afraid to admit that we were, but he wouldn't let us deny it. He would, just like when I was saying, oh, I'm afraid, I don't want to go, and then finally he just said, of course you must go. He let us play in our ego a little bit, but always saying, I trust who you are, and I trust that you will continue on this path as far as you can go in this lifetime. And that's the blessings of the Masters. And we owe it to ourselves and to the world right now to be very, very aware of this and to give it everything that we have. So God bless you all.